The rain was falling when Marilyn walked off set mid-scene, still in costume, and disappeared into the city. No one knew where she went until now. It started with the lights. Too bright, too hot, bearing down on her like judgment from above. Marilyn stood on her mark, sequined evening gown catching every beam, makeup perfect, hair arranged in platinum waves that had taken 2 hours to achieve. The director called action for the 14th time, and she opened her mouth to deliver the line she'd delivered 13 times before. But nothing came out. Not because she'd forgotten the words. She knew them perfectly, had rehearsed them 100 times, could recite them in her sleep. But standing there under those lights, surrounded by cameras and crew members and the machinery of Hollywood magic, Marilyn realized something that made her blood run cold. She didn't know why her character was saying these words, didn't understand what they meant, or why they mattered, didn't feel anything except the weight of performance pressing down on her shoulders like stones. The director was saying something, the script supervisor was checking her notes, the cinematographer was adjusting his lens, all of them waiting for Marilyn Monroe to be Marilyn Monroe, to deliver the magic they'd paid for, to transform into the fantasy that sold tickets and dreams, and she couldn't do it. Not one more time, not one more take, not one more second, so she walked, right off her mark, right past the cameras, right through the maze of equipment and startled crew members who stepped aside automatically, like the sea parting, because Marilyn Monroe was moving, and you didn't stop Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn, the director's voice, sharp with confusion. Where are you going? We're in the middle of a scene. She didn't answer, kept walking, through the soundstage, past the makeup stations, past the racks of costumes and the tables laden with coffee and donuts for the crew. Someone grabbed her arm, her assistant, face tight with concern. Miss Monroe, what's wrong? Are you feeling ill? I need air, Marilyn said, and her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Flat, honest, not the breathy, careful voice she used for cameras, just her real voice, the one almost no one ever heard. I'll call your driver, just wait here, and… But Marilyn was already moving again, through the heavy studio door and out into the late afternoon, where it was raining. Not a gentle Hollywood rain manufactured by machines and carefully controlled. Real rain, cold and sudden, and completely indifferent to her sequined gown and perfect hair. The kind of rain that soaked through to the skin and made you feel alive in a way that nothing on a soundstage ever could. She stood there for a moment, face turned up to the sky, feeling the rain dissolve her makeup and plaster her hair to her skull, feeling the careful construction of Marilyn Monroe washing away with every drop. Behind her she could hear voices, confused, concerned, rising in volume. Someone would come after her soon, her publicist, her agent, the studio executive who'd invested a fortune in this picture and couldn't afford for his star to have a breakdown. But right now, in this moment, she was alone, and the rain was falling, and Marilyn Monroe made a choice. She ran, not gracefully, not like a movie star making an elegant exit. She ran like a person who'd just broken free from chains she hadn't realized she was wearing. Her heels, ridiculous, expensive, part of the costume, skittered on the wet pavement. She kicked them off without stopping, left them abandoned on the sidewalk like evidence of a crime. The sequined gown was already ruined, heavy with water, dragging at her legs. She gathered the fabric in both hands and kept running, barefoot on cold concrete, rain streaming down her face, and she felt more real than she had in months, maybe years. The studio lot gave way to city streets. Los Angeles in the rain, a rare sight, people hurrying for cover with newspapers held over their heads. No one looked at her twice. Why would they? She wasn't Marilyn Monroe anymore. She was just a woman in a ruined dress running through the rain, anonymous, invisible, free. She didn't know where she was going, didn't have a plan. She just ran until her lungs burned and her feet ached, and the studio was blocks behind her, and then she slowed to a walk, breathing hard, looking around at a neighborhood she didn't recognize. Small shops, a diner with steamed-up windows, a laundromat with its warm yellow light spilling out onto wet sidewalks. Normal places, places where normal people lived, normal lives, places Marilyn Monroe never went. A woman hurrying past with an umbrella gave her a strange look. Marilyn glanced down at herself and almost laughed. She looked insane, soaked to the bone in an evening gown that probably cost more than most people made in a month. No shoes, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers, hair plastered to her head, all the careful styling destroyed. She looked like she'd escaped from somewhere. Which, she supposed, she had. The diner. She needed to get inside somewhere, needed to think, needed to figure out what she'd just done, and what she was going to do next. Marilyn pushed through the door, and a bell chimed above her head. Warmth and the smell of coffee and frying bacon enveloped her. The few customers scattered at tables looked up, registered her appearance with varying degrees of surprise and concern, then went back to their meals. No one recognized her. Why would they? Marilyn Monroe didn't walk into corner diners dripping wet and barefoot, looking like a disaster. She slid into a booth near the back, leaving wet footprints and a trail of water across the linoleum floor. A waitress approached, older woman with kind eyes and a practical expression. "Honey, you okay? You look like you've had a rough day." Marilyn tried to speak and found her throat tight with something that might have been tears or laughter or hysteria. She started, and had to stop. Start again. "I'm fine, just caught in the rain." "I'll say." The waitress pulled a handkerchief from her apron and handed it over. "Here, for your face. You want some coffee? Something to eat?" "Coffee," Marilyn managed. "Please, coffee would be perfect." The waitress patted her shoulder with motherly concern and walked away. Marilyn sat in the booth, shivering slightly, and used the handkerchief to wipe at her face. The fabric came away black with mascara. She caught her reflection in the window, a ghost of herself, barely recognizable, and felt something shift in her chest. When was the last time she'd been somewhere without a plan, without an agenda, or a photographer, or someone managing her image? When was the last time she'd done something spontaneous, something unscripted, something that wasn't carefully calculated to serve the career or protect the brand? She couldn't remember. The coffee arrived, hot and strong, and served in a thick white mug that had nothing elegant about it. Marilyn wrapped both hands around it, feeling the warmth seep into her cold fingers, and took a sip. It was terrible, burned and bitter, and probably sitting on the burner too long. It was the most real thing she'd tasted in months. She laughed then, couldn't help it, a real laugh that burst out of her like something that had been trapped too long, and finally found its way free. The waitress, refilling sugar dispensers at a nearby table, looked over with a smile. "That's better. You got some life in you after all. I was worried." "I think," Marilyn said slowly, surprising herself. "I was worried too." She sat there for an hour, maybe longer, drinking terrible coffee and watching the rain streak down the windows and the people hurrying past outside. Normal people with normal problems. Nobody performing, nobody pretending to be something they weren't. A young couple came in, laughing, shaking water from their coats. The man said something that made the woman punch his arm playfully, and they slid into a booth across from each other, continuing some argument that was clearly just an excuse to keep talking. Real, unscripted, no one watching, no one judging, just two people being themselves. Marilyn felt something like envy twist in her chest. When was the last time she'd been able to just be herself with someone? When was the last time a conversation wasn't a performance, a calculation, a careful dance of saying what people wanted to hear? The door opened again. A man this time, older, maybe 60, with the weathered face of someone who'd worked outside his whole life. He took the stool at the counter, nodded at the waitress like they were old friends, and ordered without looking at a menu. "Usual, Dolores. And make it quick. I got to get back before my wife thinks I drowned." "Your wife thinks you're at the hardware store, Frank." "Well, I was at the hardware store, then I got hungry." "Convenient." Their easy banter continued while Dolores poured his coffee and put in his order. Marilyn watched them, fascinated. This was their routine, their comfortable rhythm. They knew each other, really knew each other, not the surface knowledge of publicity bios and magazine interviews. Real knowledge built from years of small interactions. The bell above the door kept chiming, more people seeking refuge from the rain. A woman with 2 small children, a teenager with school books, a delivery driver taking a break. None of them looked at Marilyn twice. She was invisible here, anonymous, just another person seeking shelter from the storm. And it was glorious. She ordered eggs, then toast, then pie, because the case near the register had a lemon meringue that looked imperfect and therefore perfect. She ate slowly, savoring every bite, not worrying about calories, or how she'd look in her next costume, or any of the 1,000 calculations that usually governed what she put in her mouth. The waitress, Dolores, the man had called her, kept checking on her with a concern that felt genuine. "You sure you're okay, honey? You need me to call someone? Get you a cab?" "I'm okay," Marilyn said, and meant it. "I just needed to get away for a while." "I know that feeling." Dolores refilled her coffee. "Sometimes you just need to step out of your life for a minute. Remember who you are without all the noise." Marilyn looked up, startled. "Yes, exactly that." Dolores smiled, the lines around her eyes deepening. "We all need that sometimes. The running away part, not so much, but the being alone with your thoughts, that's important." She moved on to another table, and Marilyn sat with those words. The running away part, not so much, was that what she'd done? Run away? Yes, obviously yes. She'd walked off set in the middle of filming, left her shoes on the sidewalk, disappeared without telling anyone where she was going. By now the studio would be in a panic. Her agent would be making calls, her publicist would be managing damage control, the director would be rescheduling everything, costing the production thousands of dollars for every hour she was gone. She should feel guilty, ashamed, worried about the consequences. But sitting in this diner with terrible coffee and pretty good pie, wearing a ruined evening gown and no shoes, Marilyn felt something else entirely. Relief. The rain outside had slowed to a drizzle, Through the window, she could see the city starting to emerge from the storm, lights coming on in windows, people venturing back out onto the streets, the world continuing its normal rhythm, completely indifferent to her absence. Back in Hollywood, her absence probably felt like a catastrophe. But here, blocks away in a neighborhood she'd never been to before, no one cared that Marilyn Monroe had disappeared, because they didn't know she was gone, didn't know she existed. It should have been lonely. Instead, it felt like freedom. The door opened again, and this time, Marilyn's heart jumped. A man in a suit, looking around the diner with the focused attention of someone searching for something specific. For a moment, she thought, they found me. They tracked me down. It's over. But the man's eyes passed right over her without recognition, landed on someone at the counter, a woman in a nurse's uniform, and his face broke into a smile. He crossed to her, bent to kiss her cheek, slid onto the stool beside her, a husband meeting his wife after work. That's all. Marilyn let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. No one was looking for her. Not here. Not yet. She still had time. Time for what? She didn't know. The teenager with the schoolbooks was struggling with homework, papers spread across his table, pencil tapping against his teeth in frustration. Marilyn watched him for a moment, then found herself standing, walking over. "Excuse me," she said, and her voice still sounded strange. Real, not performed. "I'm sorry to bother you, but is that geometry?" The boy looked up, startled. Yeah. I can't figure out this proof. It's driving me crazy." Marilyn looked at the paper, the angles and lines and careful logic of mathematical thinking. "May I?" She slid into the booth across from him, and for the next 20 minutes, she helped him work through the problem. Not because she had to, not because cameras were watching, or it would make good publicity, just because she saw someone struggling, and she could help. Because once, a long time ago, Norma Jean had loved math, had found comfort in the clean logic of numbers, the way there was always a right answer if you were patient enough to find it. She'd forgotten that. Forgotten she'd ever been good at anything except looking beautiful and playing roles. "Oh," the boy's face lit up with understanding. "I see it now. The angles are congruent because of the parallel lines." Marilyn finished with him and felt something warm bloom in her chest. Pride. Not the hollow pride of applause and admiration, but the real pride of helping someone learn something, of sharing knowledge, of being useful for something other than how she looked. "Thanks," the boy said, grinning. "You're really smart. Are you a teacher?" "No," Marilyn said softly, "but maybe I should be." She went back to her booth feeling different, lighter, like she'd rediscovered a piece of herself she'd lost so long ago she'd forgotten it existed. The rain had stopped completely now. Outside, the world was washed clean, puddles reflecting streetlights and neon signs. It would be dark soon. She couldn't stay here forever. Eventually, she'd have to face what she'd done, face the consequences. Go back. But not yet. Not quite yet. Dolores brought her the check, and Marilyn stared at it, realizing with a start that she had no money, no purse, no wallet, nothing except a ruined evening gown and no shoes, and the remnants of stage makeup running down her face. She looked up at the waitress, feeling panic flutter in her chest. "I don't have any money. I didn't bring my purse. I'm so sorry, I didn't think." Dolores waved a hand dismissively. "Don't worry about it, honey. You can pay me back some other time. But you don't even know who I am." "Sure I do." Dolores smiled. "You're the girl who needed to run away for a while. We've all been there." Marilyn felt tears sting her eyes. Real tears, not the pretty, photogenic tears she'd learned to produce on command. Messy tears that came from a place of genuine emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. "Really, thank you." "You take care of yourself," Dolores said, patting her hand. "And next time life gets too loud, you don't have to run quite so far. Just step outside, take a breath. Remember you're human like the rest of us." Marilyn stood to leave, and the teenager called out, "Hey, good luck with whatever you're dealing with, and thanks again for the help." The couple who'd been arguing laughing earlier waved as she passed. The old man at the counter nodded. Small gestures, kindnesses from strangers who didn't know they were being kind to someone famous, who were just being kind to a person. She stepped out into the evening. The air smelled like rain and possibility. The city stretched out before her. Millions of lights, millions of lives, each one as real and complicated as her own. She'd been so focused on her own performance for so long that she'd forgotten the world was full of other people performing their own lives, not performing in the Hollywood sense, just living, authentically, imperfectly, really. Marilyn started walking, not back toward the studio, not yet, just walking, barefoot on wet sidewalks, through neighborhoods she'd never seen before, past apartment buildings where people were making dinner and helping with homework and arguing and laughing and just existing, past corner stores and churches and parks with wet swings swaying gently in the breeze. She walked for blocks, miles maybe, Her feet were sore and her dress was ruined and her hair was a disaster, and she felt more alive than she had in years. An older woman sitting on her porch steps looked up as Marilyn passed. "You need help, dear. You lost?" Marilyn paused, considered the question. Was she lost? Geographically, absolutely. She had no idea what neighborhood she was in or how to get back to anywhere familiar. But in another way, a way that mattered more, she felt less lost than she had in a long time. "I'm finding my way," she said finally. The woman smiled. "That's good. That's real good. You be safe now." Marilyn continued walking. The night deepened around her, but she wasn't afraid. The city felt vast and alive and utterly indifferent to her celebrity, and that indifference was the most liberating thing she'd ever experienced. Eventually, inevitably, she ended up standing in front of a payphone. She'd walked in a massive circle, she realized. Not back to the studio, but close enough that she could get there if she wanted, if she called someone, if she returned to being Marilyn Monroe. She stood there for a long time, staring at the phone, feeling the weight of the choice in front of her. She could call, could go back, could apologize and explain, and slip back into the comfortable prison of being what everyone needed her to be. Or she could keep walking, keep being this version of herself, ruined and real, and rediscovering what it felt like to exist without performance. But even as she thought it, she knew she couldn't keep walking forever. The rain had been an escape, a necessary break, a moment of freedom, but it was just a moment. Eventually she'd have to go back. The question was, would she go back the same person who'd run away? Finally, she picked up the phone, dialed a number she knew by heart, waited through 3 rings, 4, 5, then hello. Her publicist's voice, tight with barely controlled panic. "Where the hell are you? Do you have any idea what you've put us through? The studio is threatening to sue. The director is having a breakdown. The press is asking questions. Marilyn, where are you?" "I'm in the city," she said quietly. "I needed some air. Some air. Some air. You walked off set in the middle of filming. You disappeared for hours. You met." She paused. Then more carefully. "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Should I send someone?" "I'm fine," Marilyn said, and meant it. "I'm actually better than I've been in a long time." Silence on the other end of the line. "Then, what does that mean?" "It means I needed to remember something. And I did." "Remember what?" Marilyn looked out at the city, at the lights and the people, and the rain-washed streets, at the vast, complicated, messy reality of a world that existed beyond the sound stages and the carefully controlled fantasy of Hollywood. "That I'm real," she said. "That underneath Marilyn Monroe, there's a person, and she matters, even if no one's watching, even if no one's taking pictures, even if she's just having coffee in a diner, or helping a kid with his homework, or walking barefoot through the rain. She matters." More silence. Then softly, "Where are you? I'll send a car." Marilyn gave the address from a street sign, hung up the phone, stood there in the evening air, waiting. The car arrived 20 minutes later. Black sedan with tinted windows, the kind the studio used for discretion. The driver got out, took in her appearance, the ruined dress, the bare feet, the mess of her hair, and said nothing. Just opened the door. Marilyn slid into the back seat. The door closed. The familiar smell of leather and air conditioning, the bubble of privilege and protection that surrounded Marilyn Monroe everywhere she went. They were moving through the city now, back toward the studio, back toward her life, and Marilyn watched the streets pass by through the tinted windows, watched the real world recede, and made herself a promise. She would go back. She would apologize for the chaos she'd caused. She would finish the film and honor her contracts and be professional, but she wouldn't forget the diner, or the rain, or the feeling of being invisible and free. Wouldn't forget the teenager struggling with homework, or the waitress who'd called her honey, without knowing she was someone famous. Wouldn't forget that underneath the performance, underneath the image, underneath Marilyn Monroe, there was a real person who deserved to exist. The studio was in chaos when she arrived. People rushing, phones ringing. Her publicist descended immediately, wrapping her in a robe, hustling her toward her dressing room, speaking rapid fire about damage control and explanations and tomorrow's shooting schedule. Marilyn let herself be managed. Let them put her back together. Fresh makeup, new costume, hair dried and restyled. The transformation from disaster to perfection taking less than an hour, because that's what Hollywood did. It took messy reality and polished it into fantasy. But this time she knew that the fantasy was just surface, that the real her still existed underneath all the careful construction, that she could be Marilyn Monroe for the cameras and still be herself when the lights went out. The director found her before they called her back to set. He looked exhausted, worried, angry, and relieved in equal measure. "Are you ready to work?" he asked. Not "are you okay?" Not "what happened?" Just "are you ready to work?" Because that's what mattered. The work, the film, the image, never the person. Marilyn looked at him, really looked at him, saw a man who was talented and passionate about his craft, but who'd never once asked her what she thought about her character or what she needed to make the performance real, who saw her as a tool to achieve his vision, not as a collaborator with her own ideas and insights. Yes, she said, because she was contracted. Because walking away would hurt more than just her career, it would hurt the crew who needed their paychecks and the other actors who'd invested their time. Because she was professional, even if no one gave her credit for it. But I need something first. What? I need to understand my character, why she's saying these lines, what she wants, what she's afraid of. I need it to mean something. The director stared at her. We don't have time for. Make time, Marilyn said, and her voice was steady, strong, not breathy or careful or designed to charm, just honest. I'm not a prop, I'm an actress. Treat me like one, or I walk again. And next time, I might not come back. They sat down, talked for an hour, really talked, about the character and the story, and what it all meant. And when Marilyn finally walked back onto the set, she delivered the line differently than she had 13 times before. She delivered it with understanding, with intention, with a confidence that came from knowing why she was saying it. Cut. The director stared at the monitor, then looked up at her, something like surprise on his face. That was really good. Where did that come from? From me, Marilyn said simply. That came from me. That night, finally back in her own apartment, Marilyn stood in front of her bathroom mirror. The makeup was washed off, the costume was hung up, the fantasy was packed away until tomorrow, and the woman looking back at her in the mirror was tired and imperfect and completely beautifully real. She thought about the diner, about Dolores the waitress, and the teenager with his geometry, and the rain washing everything clean, about walking barefoot through a city that didn't know she was anyone special, about remembering for just a few hours what it felt like to exist without performance. The studio would spin the story. Her publicist was already crafting the narrative. Exhaustion, caught in an unexpected rain, a brief health scare, nothing about running away, nothing about breaking down, nothing about a woman desperate to remember she was human, and that was okay. Let them have their fantasy, let them protect the image, as long as she knew the truth, as long as she remembered that underneath Marilyn Monroe, there was someone real, someone who'd walked off set in the rain and found herself, someone who'd shared coffee with strangers and helped a kid with his homework and been invisible and free for a few precious hours, someone who mattered, even when no one was watching. Marilyn turned off the light, climbed into bed, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she fell asleep feeling like herself. The rain had stopped hours ago, but the city was still there, vast and real, and full of people living their ordinary, extraordinary lives. And tomorrow, Marilyn would wake up and be Marilyn Monroe again, would put on the makeup and the smile and the performance. But now she knew that wasn't all she was. There was more. There was the woman who'd run through the rain, the woman who'd sat in a diner drinking terrible coffee, the woman who remembered she was real. And that woman, that real, imperfect, messy, wonderful woman, she was worth fighting for, worth remembering, worth protecting, even from the machinery of fame that wanted to consume her entirely. The rain had washed away the illusion, if only for a few hours, had shown her what lay underneath. And Marilyn Monroe, Norma Jean, whoever she was in the space between the two names, she promised herself she wouldn't forget, no matter how bright the lights, no matter how loud the applause, no matter how many people wanted her to be the fantasy and nothing more. She would remember the rain, remember the freedom, remember that she was real. And sometimes, on hard days when the performance felt too heavy and the image felt like a cage, she would close her eyes and remember walking off set, remember disappearing into the city, remember the moment she chose herself over the fantasy, remember that once for a few perfect hours, Marilyn Monroe had stopped being Marilyn Monroe and discovered that the person underneath was enough, was real, was worth saving. The rain had fallen, the woman had run, and in the running she'd found something precious that she'd thought was lost forever, herself.